Shepton Mallet is a town and civil parish in the Mendip district of Somerset in southwest England, situated approximately 18 miles south of Bristol and 5 miles east of Wells. The town is estimated to have a population of 10,369. It contains the administrative headquarters of Mendip District Council. The Mendip Hills lie to the north, and the River Sheppey runs through the town. Shepton Mallet lies on the route of the South Way, the principal Roman road into the southwest of England, and there is evidence of Roman settlement. The town contains a fine parish church and a considerable number of listed buildings. Shepton Mallet Prison was England's oldest prison still in use until its closure in March 2013. In medieval times, the wool trade was important in the town's economy, although this declined in the 18th century to be replaced by other industries such as brewing. The town continues to be a major centre for the production of cider. Shepton Mallet is the closest town to the site of the Glastonbury Festival, the largest music festival in Europe. Also nearby is the Royal Bath and West of England Society Showground, which hosts the Royal Bath and West Show and other major shows and festivals. History. The name Shepton derives from the Old English scoep and tun, meaning sheep farm. The Domesday Book of 1086 records a settlement known as Shepton. The current spelling is recorded at least as far back as 1496, in a letter from Henry VII. The second part of the name derives from that of the Norman Mallet family who took a lease from Glastonbury Abbey around 1100. The second L appears to have been added in the 16th century. Prehistoric settlement. Archaeological investigations have found evidence for prehistoric activity in the Shepton Mallet area, with substantial amounts of Neolithic flint being found, as well as some pottery fragments from the late Neolithic period. The two barrows on Barron Down, to the north of the town centre, have been found to contain cremation burials from the Bronze Age, and a further Bronze Age burial site contained a skeleton as well as some pottery. The remains of Iron Age roundhouses were found at Canard's grave, in the vicinity of what would later become the Fosse Way, along with artifacts such as quernstones and beads, and a probable Iron Age farm settlement enclosure has been identified at Field Farm. In the countryside surrounding the town, there is evidence of Iron Age cave dwellings in Ham Woods, to the northwest, and a number of burial mounds have been identified at Beacon Hill, a short distance north of the town. Roman occupation. Shepton Mallet is situated approximately halfway between the Roman towns of Bath and Ilchester on the Fosse Way, and, although there are no visible remains, there is archaeological evidence for both early military and later civilian settlement lasting into the 5th century. Domed pottery kilns, with pottery still in situ, were identified on the site of the Anglo-Bavarian Brie in the mid-19th century, suggesting military activity in the 1st and 2nd centuries. Several hoards of Roman coins ranging from the 1st to 4th centuries have also been found, as well as over 300 fibula brooch, pots, herds and other artifacts. In addition, a few isolated burials near the root of the Fosse Way were found during the 19th century. A lead coffin within a rock-cut grave was discovered at a site adjacent to the Fosse Way in 1988. This discovery, and the impending commercial development of the site by the landowner Chowerings, led archaeologists to undertake more extensive excavations in the 1990s. The grave was found to be part of a larger cemetery which contained 17 burials lying on a rough east-west alignment. indicating probable Christian adherence. Two other, smaller, cemeteries contained graves aligned north-south, possibly signifying pagan religious practices. One burial was within a substantial stone coffin which had been positioned beneath a mausoleum, the foundations of which remain. A particularly notable find in the Fossway burials was a Cairo amulet, at the time thought to be from the 5th century, and so held to be among the earliest definite evidence of Christianity in England. A copy of the amulet was presented to the then Archbishop of Canterbury, George Carey, by the churches of the Diocese of Bath and Wells, although the amulet now resides in the Museum of Somerset. Analysis by Liverpool University in 2008 using inductively coupled plasma atomic emission spectroscopy demonstrated that it was a hoax, as the silver within it dated to the 19th century or later. As well as the cemeteries, the excavations in the 1990s confirmed the presence of a linear settlement, stretching along the Fossway for perhaps a kilometre, comprising cobbled streets, wooden and stone workshops and houses containing hearths and ovens, industrial areas, and a stone-lined well. A great many artifacts were found, including both local and imported pottery, items of jewelry such as brooches, rings and bracelets, toilet items including tweezers, ear scoops and nail cleaners, bronze and iron tools, and a lead ingot which probably originated from the Romans' lead mines on the Mendip hills. Coins minted across the Roman Empire were also found. The finds on the site indicate occupation from the late 1st or early 2nd century to the late 4th or early 5th century. Although as no public buildings were found, the settlement was probably not technically a town. Saxon and Norman periods. There is a small amount of evidence of Saxon settlement in the town, including some Saxon stonework in the parish church of St. Peter and St. Paul. In addition, a charter of King Ine of Wessex, dating from 706 and witnessed by 9 bishops, including the Archbishop of Canterbury, records the granting of the area in which Shepton Mallet is now situated to Abbot Burwald of Glastonbury Abbey. According to some legends, Indracht of Glastonbury was buried in Shepton. The town fell within the Whitstone Hundred, and the 100 courts were held at Canard's Grave, a short distance to the south of the town. The Exeter Domesday Book records that, at the death of Edward the Confessor in 1066, the site was held by one Ulluit, and by Roger de Courcelles at the time of the survey in 1086. When Roger de Courcelles died, sometime before or around 1100, the land passed to the Mallets, a very prominent Norman family, who caused the name to be added to that of the settlement. Middle Ages. The Mallet family retained the estate until the reign of King John, when on the death of William Mallet it passed through his daughter Mabel to her husband Hugh of Avon. Some generations later, the part of the estate containing Shepton Mallet was sold to a relative, Sir Thomas Gournay. His son, also called Thomas, participated in the murder of Edward II, and his estates were confiscated by Edward III in 1337. However, the family regained favour with the king some years later, and the lands were returned. When Matthew de Gournay died childless in 1406, the estate again reverted to the crown, before being granted out to Sir John de Tiptoft. It was once again confiscated from his son by Henry VI during the Wars of the Roses, but was restored to Sir John's grandson Edward Tiptoft, when Edward IV regained the throne. However, he died without issue, and there followed succession of grants and reversions until Glastonbury Abbey was dissolved by Henry VIII, and the abbey's lands, including Shepton Mallet, were granted to the Duchy of Cornwall in 1536. Charters for the holding of markets and fairs were granted in 1235, 1260 and 1318. and indicate that the town was developing and prospering in the 13th and early 14th centuries. However, the Black Death struck the town in 1348, reducing the population to about 300. In the late 14th and early 15th centuries, the population and economy of the town were bolstered by the arrival of craftsmen and merchants from France and the Low Countries who came to England to escape wars and religious persecution in the home countries. They introduced cloth making, which, together with the local wool trade, became a major industry in Shepton and other towns in Somerset and Wiltshire. Indeed, it appears that wool became such a source of riches for the town that when, in 1496, Henry VII needed to raise money to fight the Scots, he called upon the wool merchants of Shepton to contribute £10 to the Co's Civil War and the Monmouth Rebellion. In 1625, a House of Correction was established in Shepton Mallet. In the English Civil War, the town supported the parliamentary side, although Shepton appears to have mostly escaped conflict apart from a bloodless confrontation between supporters of the king, led by Sir Ralph Hopton, and Parliament, led by Colonel William Strode, in the marketplace on 1 August 1642. In 1645, Sir Thomas Fairfax led the new model army through the town on the way to capturing Bristol, and in 1646 the church organ was apparently destroyed by Cromwellian soldiers. During the Monmouth Rebellion in 1685, the Duke of Monmouth was welcomed when he passed through Shepton Mallet, staying in Longbridge House in Cowell Street on the night of the 23rd of June, with his men quartered throughout the town, before setting out for Bristol the following day. Many Shepton men joined the cause, but Monmouth failed to take Bristol and had to return to Shepton on the 30th of June. Following the Battle of Sedgemoor, the Duke fled and spent the night of the 6th of July at Downside, a mile north of Shepton, before continuing his flight for 2 more days before his capture. Following the bloody assizes, 12 local supporters of Monmouth were hanged and quartered in the marketplace of the town. In 1699, Edward Strode built almshouses close to the rectory his family had built to house the town's grammar school, which lasted until 1900. 18th, 20th centuries. In the 17th and 18th centuries, the wool and cloth industries continued to thrive, powered by the waters of the River Sheppey. There were reputed to be 50 mills in the town and surrounding area in the early 18th century, and a number of fine clothiers' houses survive, particularly in Bowlish, a hamlet on the western edge of Shepton Mallet. Although these industries employed some 4,000 people towards the end of the century, they were already beginning to decline by this time. Discontent at the mechanization of the mills resulted in the deaths of 2 men in a riot in the town in 1775, an event which apparently discouraged the mill owners from modernizing further. The decision resulted in Shepton's cloth trade losing out to the steam-powered mills in the north of England in the early 19th century. The manufacture of silk and crepe revived the town's fortunes somewhat, and Shepton's mills manufactured the silk used in Queen Victoria's wedding dress. However, these industries also died out eventually. While wool, cloth and silk were declining, other industries were growing, and in the 19th and 20th centuries brewing, in particular, became one of the town's major industries. The Anglo-Bavarian brewery, built in 1864 and still a local landmark, was the first in England to brew lager. At its height, the brewery was exporting 1.8 million bottles a year to Australia, New Zealand, India, South Africa, South America and the West Indies. It closed in 1921. However, the town, which is the home of baby sham, is still an important centre for cider production. For a period during World War II, Shepton Mallet Prison was used to store important national records from the Public Record Office, including Magna Carta, the Doomsday Book, the log books of HMS Victory, dispatches from the Battle of Waterloo, and the scrap of paper signed by Hitler and Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain at the Munich Conference of September 1938. The prison also became a U.S. Army detention facility, and between 1943 and 1945, 18 American servicemen were executed within the prison walls, having been convicted by U.S. court-martial of murder, rape, both. The population of Shepton Mallet was fairly stable through the 19th century and the first part of the 20th. In 1801, it was 5,104, and in 1851 only slightly more at 5,117, although by 1901 it had swelled to 5,446, before falling back to 5,260 in 1951. By 2001, it had increased significantly to 8,981. Governance and Public Services. Shepton Mallet is in the Mendip local government district, which is part of the county of Somerset. In the 80 years prior to 1974, the town had lain within Shepton Mallet Urban District. The town elects one councillor to Somerset County Council. At the last election in 2012, a Conservative was elected. Shepton Mallet has 4 councillors on Mendip District Council, 2 elected by each of the 2 wards that make up the town. After the elections in 2015, all were Conservatives. The civil parish of Shepton Mallet has adopted the style of a town, and there is a town council of 16 members. Councillors are split equally between the 2 wards, Shepton East and Shepton West. The most recent elections were in May 2015, following which the council is made up of 5 Conservatives, 5 Liberal Democrats, 3 members of the Labour Party and 3 independent councillors. Shepton Mallet falls within the Wells parliamentary constituency. Since the general election on the 7th of May 2015, the MP is James Heapy of the Conservative Party. The town is within the South West England European parliamentary constituency, which elects 6 MEPs. It is twinned with 3 European towns: Misburg in Germany, Ossel-sur-Seine in France, and Bollnäs in Sweden. There are 2 doctors' surgeries in Shepton Mallet, a National Health Service community hospital formerly operated by Somerset Primary Care Trust, and an independent sector treatment centre, which carries out a range of surgical procedures. The nearest general hospital is the Royal United Hospital in Bath. Devon and Somerset Fire and Rescue Service have a retained fire station in the town, which is adjacent to the ambulance station operated by South Western Ambulance Service NHS Trust. Avon and Somerset Constabulary closed the local police station in 2014, and the town falls within the Somerset East Policing District. Geography. Shepton Mallet lies in the southern foothills of the Mendip Hills. The area is geologically founded on forest marble, blue lias and oolitic limestone. Nearby cave systems. To the north of the town are several caves of the Mendip Hills, including Throughplain Swallet, which is a geological site of special scientific interest, and the St. Dunstan's Well catchment, which is an important cave system including a series of spectacularly decorated caves which in total extend to about 4 miles of mapped passage. The caves at Fairy Cave Quarry were formed mainly by the erosive action of water flowing beneath the water table at considerable pressure. But as the water table has fallen, many of the caves now lie well above it, and the system now contains a variety of cave formations which in their extent and preservation are amongst the best in Britain. Shatter Cave and Withy Hole Cave are generally considered to be amongst the finest finest decorated caves in Britain in terms of the sheer abundance of pure white and translucent calcite deposits. Small numbers of greater horseshoe bat, lesser horseshoe bat and Natterer's bat hibernate in the cave system. An area of nationally rare species rich unimproved calcareous grassland of the sheep's fescue meadow oatgrass type occurs in the field to the east of Stoke Lane Quarry, surrounding countryside. The countryside surrounding the town is mostly given over to farming, although there are few areas of nearby woodland. Approximately 1.8 miles to the northeast of the town centre is Beacon Hill Wood, which is at the junction of the Fosse Way and another Roman road that runs along the top of the Mendip Hills, and which contains a number of tumuli. To the northwest of the town are Ham Woods, within which are the Windsor Hill Railway tunnels and a viaduct, remnants of the Somerset and Dorset Joint Railway. The East Mendip Way long-distance path passes around the northern edge of Shepton Mallet and through Ham Woods. Southwest of the town is the Friars Oven SSSI, which is the site of herb-rich calcareous grassland classified as the upright brome type, and northeast is the Windsor Hill Quarry Geological SSSI, and also the Windsor Hill Marsh Biological SSSR, a marshy silted pond with adjacent damp, slightly acidic grassland of interest for its diverse flora, in large part down to the varied habitats present within the small area. Two species are present which are rare in Somerset: flat sedge and slender spike rush. Other marshland plants found there include purple loose strife, yellow flag, hard rush, soft rush, flowering rush, devil's bit scabious. 3 species of horsetail equisetum spp and 7 sedges carex spp. River Sheppey. The centre and oldest parts of Shepton Mallet are adjacent to the River Sheppey, and thus at the bottom of a valley, approximately 115 metres above sea level. The edges of the town lie about 45 metres higher up. The river has cut a narrow valley, and between Shepton Mallet and the village of Croscombe, to the west, it is bounded by steeply sloping fields and woodland. However, the river flows through much of Shepton Mallet itself in underground culverts. The river occasionally floods after heavy rain, such as on the 20th of October 2006, and again on the 29th of May 2008, when rainfall was so heavy that the culverts were unable to cope with the volume of water, resulting in the flooding of some of the lower-lying parts of the town. Some houses around Leg Square, Flower Lane and Draycott Road were submerged to a depth of 1 metre. A study by the Environment Agency identified that the current standard of flood protection in those parts of the town was insufficient, as it was of a 5 to 10 year event standard, whereas current guidelines require protection of a 50 to 200 year standard. In the summer of 2010, the agency began construction of a flood alleviation scheme at a cost of about £1.3 million. Areas of the town within Shepton Mallet. There are several distinct areas which originated as separate communities around the central point of the church and marketplace. The town centre is small, basically consisting of 2 streets: High Street, which runs south from the marketplace towards the town's end retail park, and the pedestrianised Town Street, which runs north from the marketplace to Waterloo Bridge. To the east, separated from the marketplace by the Academy complex, is the parish church of St Peter and St Paul. Lower Lane, which runs under Waterloo Bridge along the bottom of the river valley to the north of the town centre, is one of the few parts of the town where the River Sheppey runs above ground. At the eastern end is Leg Square, which is surrounded by 3 large houses originally built by owners of some of the town's mills. Very close by is Cornhill, on which the former prison stands. Moving roughly eastwards, Garston Street, also in the valley bottom, consists of a long row of weavers and other artisans' cottages dating from the 17th century. The eastern end end of this area, adjacent to Kilver Street, is now occupied by the cider breweries. Across Kilver Street is Kilver Court, which over the course of the 20th century has been a factory, the headquarters of the Showerings brewing business, and then the headquarters of a leather goods manufacturer, Mulberry, behind of the Kilver Court Gardens. Originally built by Showerings for the recreation of the staff and set against the backdrop of part of the Charlton Viaduct, the gardens are now open to the public. On the eastern edge of the town is Charlton, where there are former breweries and mills, now converted into a trading estate, and right on the edge of the town is to be found Charlton House, a luxury hotel and spa, on the southern side of the town, on a triangle of land bounded on the east by the A37, on the north by the line of the former East Somerset Railway, and on the west by Canard's Grave Road, is Tadley Acres, a modern housing development built on land partly belonging to the Duchy of Cornwall. The development has been praised for the quality of its design and the use of locally sourced natural building materials. North of the former railway line is Collett Park. Across Canard's Grave Road from Tadley Acres is the Mid-Somerset Showground, immediately to the southwest of the town centre, on a site which at the start of the 20th century had been the grounds of the former Summerleys House and then a shoe factory, is the Townsend Retail Park, built in 2006-7. West Shepton, which forms the southwest corner of the town, is dominated by the former Shepton Mallet Union Workhouse, a Grade II listed building originally constructed in 1848. It later became the Nora Fry Mental Hospital and is now a housing development. Nearby, on the western edge of the town, is the modern community hospital. Moving northwards, back down into the river valley, are two hamlets, Dars Hill, once the site of a number of mills, and Bowlish, which contains several grand clothiers' houses. The steeply sloping fields adjoining the river between Bowlish and the rest of the Shepton Mallet are known locally as the Meadows. To their east is Hillmead, a council housing estate built in the 1960s. Climate. Along with the rest of South West England, Shepton Mallet has a temperate climate that is generally wetter and milder than the rest of England. The annual mean temperature is about 10 degrees Celsius with seasonal and diurnal variations, but due to the modifying effect of the sea, the range is less than in most other parts of the United Kingdom. January is the coldest month with mean minimum temperatures between 1 degree Celsius and 2 degrees Celsius. July and August are the warmest months in the region, with mean daily maxima around 21 degrees Celsius. In general, December is the dullest month and June the sunniest. South West England enjoys a favoured location, particularly in summer, when the Azores High extends its influence northeastwards towards the UK. Cloud often forms inland, especially near hills, and reduces exposure to sunshine. The average annual sunshine totals around 1,600 hours. Rainfall tends to be associated with Atlantic depressions or with convection. In summer, convection caused by solar surface heating sometimes forms shower clouds, and a large proportion of the annual precipitation falls from showers and thunderstorms at this time of year. Average rainfall is around 800 to 900 millimeters. About 8 to 15 days of snowfall is typical. November to March have the highest mean wind speeds, with June to August having the lightest. The predominant wind direction is from the southwest. Demography. In the 2001 census, the population was 8,981, comprising 4,482 males and 4,499 females. 1,976 residents were aged 16 or below. 5,781 between 16 and 65, and 1,224 aged 65 or over. Of the population aged between 16 and 74, 4,200 were in employment, with only 224 unemployed, with the remainder being economically inactive. About 69% of those in employment were in service industries, with the remainder in manufacturing, while 1,459 people were employed in managerial or professional occupations. 522 were self-employed, and 1,888 worked in routine and semi-routine occupations. A total of 3,714 households were recorded in the town, of which 2,621 were owner-occupied, 515 rented from private landlords, and 578 rented from the local authority or other social landlord. 3,688 heads of households were white. In late 2008, Mendip District Council's estimate of the town's population was 9,700.